All right, it's time for us now to review the dailies, and I'll go straight to introducing the panel that we have here this morning. Neri Mawako, Executive Director, Siasa Place. Thank you for joining us. We have Mark Bichachi, who's a political strategist. We have David Osiani, a governance consultant. And last but not least, Philip Magal, who is a lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us bright and early to go through the dailies and also just review the week. Remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation as we go along, and you can do that via social media. The handles are going to be displayed as we carry on with the show. We go straight into the dailies, and we start off with the Standard, where the headline is MPs denied US visa over drugs terrorism links. Now, some of the issues that would stop you from being issued a visa have been highlighted there: health-related grounds, criminal-related grounds, security, public charge, labor certification and qualifications of certain immigrants, illegal entrants, etc. But this particular story is highlighting some officials and members of parliament who may have been denied visas by virtue of the fact that they may have been involved in drug trafficking and terrorism links. Let me start with you, David, since you're closest to me. In terms of the war on drugs has been going on, but here now we see a development.
I think we want names.
You want names?
We just need to know. You see, one of the strategies that will work for our country is to name and shame. Let us know the people who get involved in literally finishing our young people. Give us names of people who lied to constituents so much that they got elected to be members of parliament or governors or whatever they are, who were denied visa because they are believed to be involved in the drug scandal. Because, you know, the United States, I have always said, you know, is one of the countries that's most sophisticated. Of course, I know that there is a potential for witch hunt and everything else, but the sophistry that the United States has, by the time they narrow down on you, there is a reason they say David and not Mike, or Magal and not David. They know. So we want names. Media should help this country so that when they are seen, these people who have turned our children into cash cows for their own selfish gains at the expense of the health and robustness of our children, then they should be stoned if stoning is to be. Or by shaming and naming them, we avoid a situation where they get to a point of still serving the country.
As they continue. All right, Philip Magal, of course, there is a legal implication to that, given that the cases have not yet gone before the court of law, and maybe you could speak to that. And the reason why sometimes we may not have names here as we wait for that process to continue.
Yeah, of course, there's usually the confidentiality issues, but what I know from what I've experienced is that there are usually two grounds upon which a person may be denied a visa, and that is a public health policy and a public security policy. If an individual is deemed to be a public security threat in any foreign country, they'll be denied a visa. And most likely that is the ground upon which these people are denied visas to the US, because rarely would one be denied on public health policy, unless, of course, you're carrying one of those contagious diseases like Ebola or
something contagious.
Yeah, yes. So highly likely it's because of security concerns. To me, this is an indictment of our country. You know, the US has been very active within and outside of our borders in regulating the so-called criminals within our populace. But what is our country doing? The US had to intervene for Akashas to be arrested and extradited. We know of many other criminals who our intelligence has information that they are indeed criminals, but nothing has been done about it. We are waiting for a report from the US on who is corrupt in the judiciary, who is corrupt in the police, who amongst our people is corrupt, for us to act. And even then, I doubt that we will act. Look at the Virgin Island extradition request that was made to our country. Somehow, it was scuttled and it has gone quiet, and the country lacks the political goodwill to extradite these people. Even if we choose not to extradite them, we should at least prosecute them within our courts and let justice be served. Of course, I do understand why they have not been named. But then this is a matter of great public concern, and I think it overrides the need for confidentiality in this particular instance.
All right, Nerima, of course the youth are people who you work with very closely, but you know, when we see this kind of drugs and the fact that any drug trafficking seems and always involves very senior people in government, according to what we've seen with the case of the Akashas, it also involves the judiciary. Very worrying, but of course it speaks to the fact that something has to be done, something needs to be done to ensure that our youth are safer.
Yeah, I agree that something needs to be done. And just to go back to the initial story of the members of parliament being denied, I think one of the things that was worrying in the article is the fact that they were more, but through higher intervention, they were allowed to be cleared. And so that shows you the amount of power behind some of the activities that happen that are illegal in our country. And our institutions, which are supposed to protect the people, and we talk about justice, giving equality to all people, it doesn't work that way for young people because they don't have access to wealth, they don't have access to power, so it's even more worrying for them because the Constitution is supposed to protect each and every one of us, but right now it's protecting those who have the deepest pockets. But I think that it had to take an external party to be able to share this intel because of just how connected it is. And when you're saying senior officials within the DCI, when you're talking about police, when you're talking about
judiciary,
government, yeah, it's a whole system going through different stakeholders.
They're basically
and that's
cartels.
worrying. Yeah.
All right, Mark?
You know, in this country, it is quite common that if you are a gold scammer, your closest associates are politicians. If you are a pharmacist, closest associates are politicians. That tells you that we are running a mafia in incest between politicians and criminal elements in this country. And that's really what we need to address. We can't live in a country where every time there's a crime, there's a political angle to that, because that tells you that only the worst of us are ascending to power. That tells you that the people with the worst scruples are the ones who are ascending to parliament and to senate and things like that. And that needs to stop, because for as long as there's that unholy marriage, the Akashas have shown us that 10 times they'll be innocent in Kenya when they are 100% guilty in the United States. That makes this country a place where people can just do whatever they want without consequence because they have political shielding. I'll give you an example. There's a guy who ran away from this country because KRA says he owes 41 billion. Now, I just want to ask you a question. What was his business plan? Forget about what he owes in taxes. How did he make his first million, his first 10 million, his first 50, his first 100, to the extent that 16% of what he's supposed to pay back, or 30% if it's corporate tax, it's 41 billion. My friend, how much money have you made? What do you run? Is he the largest shareholder in Safaricom? No. Are his companies the ones that rake in the most money? No. But we don't have answers to those questions because of the kind of criminality we've allowed to marry with our politics. And that divorce must happen soon. Because if it doesn't, the kind of politicians we will have by the time 2027 comes, they will have funny hair, funny behavior, can't find their waistlines, and even worse, won't be able to find their brains.
All right, Philip Magal, one of the things that, of course, leaves Kenyans worried is the judicial system that we have and the judiciary generally, because that's where we would expect that all these things would culminate and would find some form of reason. Yes. But that doesn't seem to be the case. What in your suggestion or your thoughts would help us? Because it looks like if that is one area that cannot have clean hands, then we have very little hope as Kenyans, given the kind of, things that we're seeing happening.
It's just like Mike has pointed out. It's a whole cartel. It's a whole network of individuals. It doesn't just start with the judiciary and end there. It starts all the way from the investigating officer all the way to a judge high up in the ranks. It means money is being used to corrupt the criminal justice system through and through. And it's a lot of money. And even that judge has protection. Because to date, nobody has been mentioned. We've only been told there is a judge involved, there are judges involved, magistrates involved. But why aren't they being named? Why aren't they being shamed? if at all, indeed, what is being said is true. And it has only come out after this matter has been taken to the US. It wasn't coming out while the case was being prosecuted within the country, telling you that there is a complete network of individuals from the lowly to the highmost placed who are facilitating the whole of this process. And unless the whole network is
dismantled,
yes, we will never be able to deal with this particular individual because he enjoys protection.
Okay.
But then we've seen of late some. The citizen is rising up. He's raising questions of the judiciary. He's asking why are cases taking so long? Why aren't these people being prosecuted? Why aren't there convictions coming out of our courts? And I think it is with this public